in this video, I want to talk about returning something from a function. So right now we're just console logging information inside of a function. So we run this function and it prints something out inside the console. So right here we're saying add 1 and 2, and you can see over here we get 3 in the console. Well, something that you're going to see very often in functions is the return statement. So here, instead of console log, we'll write return. So what does that mean, return? What return does is it gives something back to you. So when you run this function, this will actually provide information, or it will give back a value. So if we run this program now, we won't see anything in the console because we're not console logging something. But what this function will do is, when we run this function, it will produce or return back to you a value that you can, for example, you could assign that value to a variable. So let's create a variable, we'll call it var sum equals add 1 and 2. So here what we're doing is we're running this function, and this function is returning a value. So when we assign this value to a variable, the function is going to run and it will return a value, or it will give it back to you. And that value that is returned or given back is going to be given to this variable. So now let's console log sum, so we can observe that a value has been returned. We should still get 3. So what's happening here is this function is returning a value. When we call the function, it returns it, and it is here we're assigning that value to this variable. And then we just console log it. And we could actually call this function directly inside of our console log statement. So I'm going to comment out this line of code. So on line 7, we're console logging a function call. So this might be a little complicated. You don't need to worry about it too much, but essentially what's happening is add 1 and 2 is returning a value directly inside of this console log. And because it returns it, it's going to be, that value will be put wherever we tell it to go, which in this case is going to be right inside of this console log. So we're still going to get 3 right here. Let's do one more example to see how this return statement works. I'm going to replace this function, rather I'm going to rename this function. I'll call it get full name, and I'll call these parameters first name and last name. And then in here I will return first name, and then I'm going to add a space between them. So I'm going to say plus space plus last name. So this function is going to take the first name and the last name and return all 3 of these. Just FYI, another way we could do this is we could say var full name equals. We could create a variable inside of our function, and then we can just, full name. And then we can simply return full name. Return full name. Either way works, it will do the exact same thing. But here we're creating a variable and we're returning the variable, or we could just swap this out with the return statement. So now I'm going to create a full name. I'll say var full name equals get full name. I'll do my first name, which is Tanner. My last name, which is Boucher. Different keyboard. And now I'll console log full name. We should get Tanner Plauché. Wonderful. So again, what is happening here is I'm running this function that returns a new value. When I call the function, it's going to return it. It will give it back. And so I'm saying var full name equals whatever this function gives back. So var full name equals, call the function, it's going to give me back a value, and that's going to be the value that is assigned to full name. And then I'm just console logging the value. And that's it. There's one more thing, if you look at this, that might seem kind of tricky. You can see that I have two variables called full name. Inside the function, I have a variable called full name, and outside the function, I have a variable called full name. This has to do with scoping, which we'll talk about in our next video.